What's up, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with NIO, Tesla, SPY, and the overall market. I'm also going to break down why tomorrow is going to be a very important day as we have big data coming out in the morning. But just note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Webull link. If you deposit any amount of money, you're guaranteed at 12 free stocks. If you deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 in total. And deposit $25,000 money, you're guaranteed 75. The offer ends in just 4 weeks. Anyways, now let's talk about the market. So as far as NIO goes, we had a slight red day. We're down about 7%, which is still very slight compared to the amount of upside we saw for the last couple of weeks. This thing used to be in the threes. We're still in the sixes. So we're still actually green for the last couple of weeks. But we'll have to be watching for some big data that's coming out for tomorrow. It's going to determine how the whole market's going to be moving. So I want to focus more on the data first before I break down the charts for NIO and the others. Tomorrow's going to be Friday, October 4th, 2024. Please note that 1 hour before the market opens, we have the non-farm payrolls, unemployment rate, and more payrolls for manufacturing and governmental jobs all coming out. So lots of jobs numbers before the market opens. The most important thing is going to be the unemployment rate, which is very important to determine if we're getting closer to more economic contraction, if more recessionary indicators go off, and what the Fed ends up doing. So watch for this very carefully. We'll see what happens with unemployment. It's going to be very important for the whole market. I also want to mention that there's currently about a 36% chance the Fed gives us a 50 basis point cut, and about a 63% chance we get a 25 basis point cut. So we'll see what happens with this. This is going to be another big factor. I also want to mention that for October 4th, which is tomorrow, we have a 568 max payment with a 2.18 puts to call ratio. The majority of positions are in puts, so we'll see what happens at least with this moving forward. That's going to be a big factor, so give that the time it needs. For other factors out there, we also have some news coming out that for Tesla, for those who are interested, one of their top executives had to stand down, and that's why we saw a little bit of a dip on Tesla. For the broader markets, there's a lot of news coming out right now. So I first want to mention Israel. We're waiting to see what kind of response they give us, at least after everything that happened for the last couple of days. So we'll see if anything happens that could affect the market to some extent, especially oil prices. And then there's a lot of strikes in the U.S. So a lot of U.S. ports are closed. Many companies are going to be affected by this. So you can see the companies that are most impacted include Samsung, Goodyear, Michelin, GM, Amazon, IKEA, the Home Depot, and many others out there. We're going to continue to see how the rest of these do. I think Apple's also being impacted as well, but maybe not to the same extent. That's because of the whole port closures. A lot of them have been closed temporarily. Right now, JP Morgan has given NIO an overweight rating, but nothing's really shifting as much there. Price risk ratio is due to cool off a bit, but still on a nice uptrend. And volume is starting to slow down about 98 million. So what do I see for NIO? It depends on the unemployment numbers. If we get a very big increase in unemployment, we could be looking for a bit of a dip in the markets. If unemployment's above 4.4%, I think NIO could be dipping back down to about 6.5. Then if that fails us, we're looking for 6.23. If we get some decent numbers and the unemployment rate goes down, we could be looking for a push above 7. Right now, we have a double top-like structure, and there is a risk of us dipping lower, all the way down towards the 6.5 area or below, especially where this imbalance happens to be. So there's a risk of some downside for NIO, but this depends on the unemployment numbers. For SPY, it's the same thing essentially. We're either going to be dumping back down to about 562 tomorrow if we get a high unemployment and the numbers don't look too good. If we get a decent one, we could attempt to rebound, make our way back up towards these highs. So either for bullish, we're looking for at least 572 to the upside if we get good numbers. If we get bad numbers, we're going to be dumping down to 562. I'll be watching to see which one happens to be, so be very patient nonetheless. For ES, this is either going to be dumping tomorrow all the way down to about 5,700 flat or below. And if we're bullish, you want to see this break closer to about 5,800. So it could go either way. I do see it either pumping or dumping, so be very patient. For Nvda, we're kind of rejecting here. So look at 122 as resistance. If that rejects, we're looking for 120 and then eventually 117. If we're bullish, you want to break past 125. So we'll see which way we go. And we'll be very patient nonetheless. For Bitcoin's kind of on a bit of a downtrend so far. The resistance around this 61,650 area, and we have support all the way down at around 60,000. If that breaks, we're looking for 58,000. So far, there's a bit of a downtrend. We're not really doing much. For other, for other factors out there, we have Tesla. Tesla's on a big downtrend right now. If we get high unemployment numbers, we're looking for a dump back down towards 235. If that fails us, we're looking for that gap support at 232. We have resistance also around that 240 area. If that breaks, we're looking for basically 247. So it could go either way, but right now it looks more bearish. And just know that with the top executive or one of their big executives leaving the company, it's a little bit more negative news. For NQ, If we're bearish tomorrow, we're looking for a target of 19,800, then 19,700 below that. If we're bullish, trying to break past 20,200. It could go either way as it depends on unemployment. The QQQ could go either way. If we're bearish, you want to see this dump all the way down to the gap for 475. And right now, the chart does look more bearish, so it does suggest that we're going to eventually come down here. If we're bullish, you want to break past 483 to turn back up. This is still favoring the downwards direction, just to be frank. Apple's also looking a little bit more bearish. It does have this gap to fill below, so it does favor 222. So it does make me think the market may dip a little bit lower, but just to be safe, we'll see what the numbers look like. We also have 226.8 as resistance. If it breaks, we're looking for 229. But this chart looks a little bit more bearish. For a few more, the IWM is looking more bearish. If we lose 215, we're looking for that gap fill for 212. If we bounce off this, we're looking for 218. I think the gap fill is very probable, but that depends on what we see from unemployment. For Coinbase, we're a little bit more bearish. If we end up losing 160, we're looking for a dip back down towards these lower levels like 156. We also happen to have resistance around 170. So it could go either way, but this looks a little bit more bearish to me. So be very, very mindful of that. For Amazon, we look a little bit more bearish. If we continue to fall, we're looking for 180. If that fails us, we're looking for 178. We also have resistance around 184. We'll see which way we go. This looks a little bit more bearish nonetheless, though, so be careful with that. For Meta, we look a little bit more bullish. We're trying to break out for 585. If we're bearish, you want to see us lose 574. So it could go either way, but so far it looks a little bit more bullish going into tomorrow. We'll see how unemployment affects us. It's going to affect Meta as well, but it's still outperforming the market. We have Microsoft looking more bearish. If we're bearish, we're looking for 414, then 409 as our targets. We have 420 as resistance, so it could go either way, but we're waiting for unemployment. So far, the chart's suggesting that 414 is coming. Google's in the middle. It does look like it might be dipping to about 165. We'll see about that, though, depending on the data. So I'm going to be very patient. So we have big data coming out tomorrow. It's going to be unemployment. That could cause NIO to dump or bounce. If it breaks past 6.74, we want to get back up to where this gap is around 7.25. If we end up failing to break through that, we're looking for a dip to about 6.23. My guts tells me that 6.5 and 6.23 are likely coming, so we'll see how things end up moving. But there's going to be a risk of us dipping even lower, so be very, very mindful of that. With that being said, guys, I want to thank you all so much for listening. I think the odds are favoring a little bit more downside for NIO stock if we can't reclaim it 6.74, but that depends a lot on unemployment. Unemployment might be decent. I think that we could get 4.2 or 4.3%. If it does spike a little bit, that could be negative. It also depends on how the market interprets this. There's other factors as well, such as the payrolls. So even if unemployment's decent, if non-farm payrolls are not the best, that could cause some downside. So we'll see how things go. The strikes that are going on in the US and the whole situation with Israel is another big factor. So those big factors have to be accounted for as well. But despite all this news that's coming out, the charts still look a little bit more bearish to me. So we'll be watching to see how we end up reacting. With that being said, there's a higher probability of NIO dipping if we fail to hold above 6.74 tomorrow. So please keep that in mind. With that being said, I appreciate you guys so much for listening. I'll see you guys very soon in the next one. Get ready for big data for tomorrow, and peace out.